Here we have the front bodice block on fold, the lining piece, the fabric piece, and the interfacing. The neck width is 3 inches by 3 inches for the front. It will be altered later on by 1 inch to expand the width and the depth. The neckline of the back bodice block will be altered also, the width and the depth. Let's keep the bodice block aside and cut the down part of the dress. Let's call it the skirt part for now. Here I have 10 yards of tulle folded on each other, making 20 yards of tulle in total. I'm coming down from the shoulder line by 6 inches, on which I would top stitch the net I'll be gathering on the front block. At the over chest area, I'll be leaving about 1.5 inch to 2 inches outside my stitch line. This would create a ruffle effect at the upper area. The length of the tulle is 11 inches and the width can be as preferred. I am showing you here that I marked 5 inches from the sleeve start point to create my S curve, and the length of the sleeve is 11 inches and the width is 9 inches on fold. For the tulle ruffle effect on the sleeve, mark 1 inch apart till you exhaust the length of the sleeve. I am placing the sleeve flat on the table to show you how I'll be creating the ruffle effect. The width of the tulle is about 4 inches and the length is 45 inches. Place 3 layers of tulle on each other, and on the middle, place on the first line created on the sleeve. There you start creating some gathers as you sew along. Repeat this process on all lines created on the sleeve. Here the markings show the altering of the neckline. The front will become 4 inches width by 4 inches depth, and the back 4 inches width by 2 inches depth. Now we are done cutting the down part of the dress. We will keep the tulle and the satins aside and proceed to the sewing machine. Starting with the front block of the upper bodice, I'll start by gathering on the waistline the tulle to create the ruffle effect at the front part. When you reach the other part of the waistline, trim off any excess. We will repeat the same process on the over chest area, gathering and top stitching, leaving aside about 2 inches excess of tulle. A little tip here is to flatten out the fabric as you top stitch along, ensuring that your tulle is as straight as possible. When you are done, trim off excesses around the armhole area. The extra tulle left on the over chest, straighten it out with a scissors. Here I am cutting out the unwanted fabric on the neckline area, first on the lining piece, and I'll be using the cutout as a pattern for the main fabric. Place the lining piece on the main fabric and sew the neckline by 1/2 inch. Stop halfway and continue from the other shoulder area. This way you get a good balance. Notch around the neckline area, move the seam allowance towards the lining piece and top stitch. Stretch out the fabric as you sew along, and the front bodice is ready. Kindly repeat the same process of gathering your net on the main piece of the back bodice. Stretch out the net as you top stitch along, face the neckline with the lining, notch around, move the seam allowances to the lining piece and top stitch. We proceed to join the shoulder area. Here I am placing the front shoulder on the back. Leave out the lining piece. The lining piece will be covering the shoulder area to create a neat finish. Sew down by 0.5 inches and repeat the same process on the other shoulder. When you are done, the shoulder area should look like this. For a backed out seam, take your measurement by placing fabric of the front and the back together. Divide the chest by 2 and the remaining inches left, share it into 2 again. Repeat the same process on the waistline and sew down the side seam. Mark the inches used for the main fabric on the lining piece as well. Sew down the side seam and repeat the same process on the other side. When you are done sewing, the side seams of the main fabric and the side seams of the lining piece should be all connected. And here is what it should look like. Here's a little tip for the side seams. Tuck in like a triangle as shown and top stitch by 0.5 inches. Do this on the armhole area, on the waistline of the main fabric, and on the lining piece. I have gone ahead to gather the waistline of the tulle, top stitching both layers together. Place the right side of the upper bodice on the skirt part. Come in with the satin to be attached to the tulle. It is advisable to top stitch the satin on the tulle to keep it together. Top stitch by 0.5 inches. If there's any excess, gather the tulle into the satin and ensure that the gathers are evenly spread. Now you can proceed to attach the skirt part to the upper bodice. Top stitch by 0.5 inches. You start by sewing from one center back, sew halfway and continue from the other center back to get a good balance. When you are done, flatten out the dress to inspect what you've been sewing so far, ensuring no net is strapped wrongly. You must have attached your hard net to the satin serving as a lining. Place the waistline on fold as shown and notch the center. Do the same thing for the upper bodice. This also helps you to get your gathers spread evenly. Match up the center waistline, the center back, for a good balance. Kindly check the description box to see how to attach your hard net to the satin serving as the lining. When you are done with one half of the waistline, repeat the same process on the other half. Open up the dress when you are done to inspect all you've been doing so far. I realize the armhole is a bit tight, so I'm coming down by 1 inch from the chest line to reshape the armhole. The net ruffle has been created on the sleeve. You can see the 1 inch space in between the sleeve. You are to open up the ruffle by hand, stretch out and open all layers. This creates more volume for the ruffle effect. Place the sleeve on fold and sew down the side seam by 1 inch. Next, you are to weave the raw edges at the upper area of the sleeve. When you are done weaving the sleeve, do the same thing for the armhole of the dress. Now we are to connect the side seams of the sleeve and the side seam of the dress, matching it up with each other. The volume of the sleeve is excess. While you sew, create some gathers on the sleeve as shown and top stitch round by 0.5 inches. These gathers help create more volume on the ruffle sleeve. The round armhole should be neatly finished when you are done and it should look like this. Repeat the same process on the other armhole. Next, we are to join the center back of the lining piece. From the neckline, mark 21 inches. This will be the sewing start point. You can measure with your zipper to be sure the start point goes above the zipper as shown. It is advisable to match up the waistline of the lining piece before you proceed to sew. The seam allowance for the zipper is 1 inch. You can measure for accuracy. Sew from that point all the way to the hem. For the center back of the main fabric, sew a loose stitch measuring from the neckline to 20 inches. This is the stop point. You are to make a back stitch at the stop point, and from there you sew a normal stitch all the way to the hem. Place your zipper well centered on the center back, starting from the main neckline as shown. Sew one side of the zipper on the seam allowance from the neckline to the end of the zipper. I will recommend you use a zipper foot at this stage. Next, make a reverse and start sewing from the end of the zipper all the way to the neckline. When you are done, remove the loose stitch sewn on the center back of the main fabric all the way to the 20 inches stop point. This way the zipper can now be opened. Next, we are to connect the center back of the lining and the center back of the main fabric together. Match up the neckline and sew down both center back. You are to repeat the same process on the other center back. While you sew, it is not necessary for your stitch line to be very close to the zipper. You can give a space of 0.25 inches. You will observe the neckline is still open. We are to seal up the neckline by 0.5 inches over the zipper to the center back. Open the wrong side of the dress, grabbing the waist seams of the main fabric and the lining. Join them together by 0.5 inches. A little tip here is to match up the side seams before going ahead to connect the waistline. This helps create a balance. Behold the wrong side of the dress and the right side. Unzip to see the clean finish. I went ahead to add some embellishment to the waistline and the over chest. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe.